Welcome everybody to this webinar around Cofense Intelligence in particular and how it can help you to catch more fish. My name's Alan Salas. I'm the Principal Sales Engineer here at Cofense. I work with our commercial teams to help them from a technical perspective. So if you do have any questions or you want a demo, a deep dive demo later on, then very happy to help you with that. So, why do we keep talking about phishing? Why is this still a problem? The numbers will vary depending on the sources that you look at, but it is widely recognized that phishing is still one of the major causes of data breaches. The majority of data breaches that you hear about in the media, most of them started with a phish, and that continues to be the case. And why is that? The main problem is that technology is still not completely effective against phishing. And that means that malicious emails will continue to land in users' inboxes. One of the challenges with technology is it can't tell you what it missed. And so you need another layer underneath the technology to catch those threats, and that's what we do at Cofense. The second challenge is that organizations recognize that technology is not a complete solution to phishing. They know that stuff gets through, and so many organizations will attempt to mitigate that problem by educating their users, and that is a very good place to start, to help educate your users about what phishing actually looks like, so they've got a hope of detecting the real thing and not interacting with it. The two challenges there, I suppose, are number one is that awareness training does nothing to actually stop the real fish landing in your inboxes. Technology will still let them through, but also the click rate, whether it's on an awareness simulation that you send through or a real phishing email, will never be zero. Somebody somewhere will click on it. You cannot rely on reducing the click rate. And while you might think, well, if I introduce a security awareness program and I halve my click rate, I'm somehow twice as protected. That is a sort of false assumption. There is only one safe level of phishing, and that is zero. It's not about volume. You can be compromised by a single phishing email sent to one person. That is enough to compromise you. And so when you think about how you're going to solve this, technology is not going to do it all for you. You can't rely on the users entirely, but you've got to act quickly. And so, of course, technology is moving on all the time, and we now have generative AI and machine learning, and there's a lot of email security solutions out there that sort of promise this nirvana of solving the phishing problem. And of course, it can bring a lot of benefit to the party. It can do a lot of things for us, and that humans find difficult. So it can look at the use of language within the email to see if this is the way that person normally communicates. It can give you insights into, is this somebody that you normally receive email from? It can look at things like exec and domain spoofing and try and identify those things. And it can help with the analysis of potentially malicious emails. And when it finds something bad, it can help you respond to those incidents and do the mitigation of them, which is all great stuff. But I'd ask you to consider this, important point, which is we all know from the media, every week there's a new story about the daft things that generative AI has done. And that's because these models are only as good as the data that they are trained with. So how do they detect new threats? How are these vendors who are sort of offering these solutions catching the stuff that the misses? It's much easier to talk about false positives and say, well, it detected something that as a threat that wasn't, so we can unblock that and let it through, and it can learn from those mistakes. When it blocked something falsely, but what about when it missed something falsely? There's no real process for technology to deal with that. You still need humans because technology can't tell you what it missed. And this is the real challenge, is how are those machine learning models being kept up to date with the ever-evolving threat landscape so that they keep detecting the new threats rather than the stuff that they've already been trained on. And we in Cofense predict that there is going to be a drop-off in the performance of these types of detections because of this reason. Now, of course, the other side of it is that us as defenders don't have it all our own way. The threat actors are equally able to use the same technologies to attack us as well. And so what we're starting to see now is more sophisticated phishing attacks. It enables threat actors to create more sophisticated attacks that are more personalized and more targeted at individuals, but are also done in volume, and that have less of the markers that we have traditionally used to try and identify these things, such as poor use of grammar, emails that are not in business speak, and so forth. And on the E92 website, there is a blog article that explores some of these, things in more detail. So you're very welcome to go and look at that as well. And a bit like climate change, we can't look at a particular email campaign or phishing campaign and say with certainty that came from an AI. But what we can look at, sort of as an overall picture, is the sophistication of these attacks increasing? And the answer is absolutely yes. So we know that threat actors are, or confident that threat actors are starting to use this technology to make it easy to bypass these email controls and technology controls that organizations are using. And if you need any more kind of convincing around will technology eventually solve the phishing problem, consider this this statement. Now, if this was an interactive session, I'd be asking you for suggestions about who you thought said that and when they said it. Obviously, this being a webinar, I can't do that. But this was Bill Gates back in 2004, confidently predicted that Microsoft would solve spam in short order. Well, here we are 20 years later, and spam is still the problem it has always been. And unlike phishing emails, spam is not pretending to be anything other than what it is. And yet we can't solve that problem. Technology has not solved it. So if it can't solve the spam problem, which I'm sure we would all agree is should be a much simpler problem, how do we think that technology is going to stop spam by itself when the threat actors are deliberately trying to evade those controls? And so, how do we solve this problem? The challenge there is that technology is very good at stopping things that it knows about. Your email gateway, other email security controls, your proxies, and endpoint protection can block known threats. It's great at doing that. It's just not effective enough against the unknown threats. So we have to sort of close this part of the puzzle. And the way we do that is we use people. We need people to turn the unknown threats into the known threats. People are much more effective at identifying malicious emails that the technology missed. And so by building what would describe as a human firewall, you can enact a process that will convert unknown threats into known ones. And then the technology can take over from there. And it's really good at doing that. And that's what we do at Cofense. We analyze millions of end user reported emails every year. And from that, we derive a unique insight into the phishing threat landscape, which is entirely comprised of the phishing threats that technology missed. And that is how you ultimately get to an effective phishing defense posture by using technology and people together. It's that sort of classic people process technology problem. And so there's sort of three sort of main pillars to building a human firewall in an environment. It starts first of all with building a culture of reporting. We need your people, we need the workforce to detect the threats that the technology lets through. This is a collaboration between IT and the business. IT security is everybody's job, and we need to educate users about that. And the main focus of that awareness should be to encourage people to report the emails that they think are suspicious. Now, that leads to another challenge, which is that crowdsourcing is noisy by its very nature. If you ask users to tell you about suspicious threats, well, they will, but they're also going to tell you about a lot of stuff that is not a threat. So probably 90% or something in that region of the emails that people report as suspicious are actually not a threat. They're spam and marketing emails and legitimate business emails and so forth. But the security operations team need effective tooling to rapidly assess those user-reported emails to confirm whether they are actually a threat or not, cut through the noise and get to the small minority of malicious as fast as possible. And as though your analysts do that assessment, bad or not bad, you can derive threat intelligence from it. You can identify the malicious indicators that are then going to drive the rest of the remediation process. And this is effectively what Cofense does, but we do this at scale. You can, of course, enact a process like this in-house, and it works just for you. But by taking that service from Cofense, we're doing this at a much larger scale than an individual organization can do. We have millions of end users who are reporting their emails to us, and we're deriving a lot more threat intelligence from it. And what we see is that the majority of malicious emails that we identify from those user-reported emails, we see them across multiple clients, and therefore we can be proactive about pulling those emails out of the mailbox. Now, let's turn to the question of the topic of this webinar, which is about Cofense Intelligence. What is that? This is one of the offerings that we have at Cofense, which is the intelligence that we derive from those user-reported emails. And to use an analogy, it's an intelligence report. It gives you insight into particular email campaigns and what tactics that campaign is exploiting, what techniques they're using to get it into the user's inbox, and what are they exploiting to compromise you. If we imagine this is a police report, this is it gives information about who the threat actor is, where they are operating, and what their modus operandi is. So this is what Cofense Intelligence is. It's human vetted, near real-time phishing threat intelligence that is rich with context that enables you to take action upon the information that we're providing. There are many threat intel feeds out in the world, and they vary dramatically in their quality and usefulness to organizations. Some of them are just literally lists of IP addresses and that are devoid of context. And so it's very hard for an organization to action that information because you don't know what you're looking at. But with enough context, you can understand what the threat is and why it's a threat. And so we enrich all of our the indicators of compromise. We don't just give you a list of this URL, this file hash from this particular campaign that we identified. We enrich it to give you the context that you need. Cofense is the only source of phishing specific threat intelligence that is particularly focused on the threats that landed in a user's inbox. And that means all of the intel that we're providing to organizations is focused on the threats that the technology missed. This is post-compromise. Because everything is human vetted by our analysts before we publish it, we have an extraordinarily low false positive rate. We are told by our clients, it is far, far lower than any other threat intelligence that they consume. We're currently running at 0.0002% false positive, which means, you know, in a typical year, we maybe have one or two false positives out of hundreds of thousands of indicators that we are publishing. We don't just give you the URLs and so forth without devoid of context. We give you all the information that you need. We add a lot of context to explain the nature of the threat and whether it is relevant to you. And this is a process we're enacting in close to real time. So often within minutes of us detecting that threat, we are publishing it to the feed. So this is about having an intelligence feed that is relevant, that is timely, that is accurate, and is complete. It gives you that, all of those things give you the confidence for it to be actionable. So if we then, you know, go back to what that might mean in terms of a phishing campaign, we're going to tell you whether this is something we've previously seen before. We're going to give you a really detailed picture of the attack itself. We're not just going to give you the indicators of compromise that we identify from the originating email, but we explode all of this stuff in a sandbox as well, and we follow the trail. And so we build a rich picture of where that link takes you, or where that file takes you, what it calls out to, and so forth. I'll give you an example, a couple of examples in a minute. We give you, if it's the threat is in a particular language, we'll tell you that. We'll tell you where it came from. If it targets a particular industry, or abuses a particular brand, or bypasses particular email gateways, we're going to give you all of that information, because then you can make decisions about whether this is relevant to you. You know, to go back to the bank robber analogy, you know, if this is somebody who only operates in the city of London, if you're in Chicago or Berlin or wherever, you can kind of say, well, that's not relevant to us. This person doesn't operate in our area. And this is about why context is so important. And so the Cofense Intelligence is designed to be integrated into your security stack. It's a feed effectively, and you can basically integrate it almost anywhere within your security stack. The most obvious place to do that, to bring the Cofense Intelligence in, is into your SIEM. You know, a Sentinel, Splunk, a QRadar, whatever you've got, so that you can correlate that information against the security logs. But it can also be integrated into a threat intelligence platform like Anomaly, or an orchestration tool like Phantom or SOAR, and you can also feed it directly into the perimeter controls as well, proxies, firewalls, endpoints. So the main use is a real-time feed, but there is also a user portal, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. So here's an example email that is a malicious campaign. I'm just going to show you what that looks like inside Cofense Intelligence. So we have a user portal, and each campaign that we identify, we create what's called an active threat record. You can go into the portal and you can search for this type of stuff. Here's the intelligence on that particular email that you saw in the screenshot here. So you can see here when it was campaign, when it was published, what type of campaign it was. So it's a credential phishing attack. We can see that it's abusing Microsoft. We can also see which industry that it targeted, building suppliers, and we can also see which email security solution that it bypassed. So in this case, Cisco let it through, and ATP let it through as well. So there's a whole lot of data that we collect and we publish on it. So we get the subject, and we get to see the network indicators as well. And so we've got multiple URLs here as well. So perhaps this would have been the originating URL that was within the email, and then that would have directed to somewhere else and somewhere else and somewhere else. And you can see here that if I just scroll right, that we are enriching those assets with more information. We're geotagging them. We're saying where are they coming from, where are they being hosted, and what type of impact they have. We classify everything to major and minor, so the stuff that is minor doesn't get published to the feed automatically, because we need higher levels of confidence in it. We tend to get more information on a malware campaign. So here's an example of a malware one, which is targeting the finance industry, and it's uses PDF files containing malware. So again, we've got the email subjects. We can see what mechanism are they using? What exploit are they trying to take advantage of? So in this case, there's a PDF with HTML in there, and that HTML then will go off and download some malware. And so by following that trail, we can see these are all the network indicators, and you can see, right, this is the payload, that URL. And then if you activate that, it's going to download some files. Here are all the files, the file hashes. What type of malware is it? What is that malware? What does it does? This is a fairly new one that's specific to Latin American clients. And then you can see all the command and control infrastructure associated with that and where it's all located. So there's a huge sort of rich picture of content that we are publishing into the feed that you can then put into your SIM and look to see whether there was any evidence of interaction with one of these IOCs, because that tells you you've been compromised. There are more examples, by the way. If you go over to cofense.com into our knowledge center, we're constantly publishing new visual examples like this one, so you can have a look and see what's getting through each type of seg. So the use cases are predominantly to correlate this information against your security logs to look for evidence of compromise. You can update block lists with the known bad that the technology missed that only people can tell you about. You can research the current threat landscape through the user portal. We at Cofense also mine that information for new trends, new changes in tactics. We also make predictions about what we're likely to see in the future. So we derive a lot of insights from that we share with people. We do quarterly rolls up and annual roll ups as well. And so fundamentally the value of Cofense Intelligence is providing that vital context that organizations need to identify evidence of compromise and to understand and to prioritize their incident response on the threats that matter, i.e. the ones that are getting to the inbox and reaching there now, that technology is missing right now. And that can help organizations by understanding what the threat landscape looks like now. That can help you prioritize your defenses against that phishing landscape. If threat actors start a new tactic or technique that is bypassing email security at volume, you can make sure you are protected against that. If they are exploiting particular vulnerabilities, you can make sure that those vulnerabilities are minimized on your side. Ultimately, this is about reducing the dwell time of confirmed phishing threats so that you can find those attacks and remediate them quickly. As you saw before, with all these integrations into SIMs, tips, and SOARs and stuff like that, it's really easy to integrate Cofense Intelligence into the security stack. And the most important thing, but the thing that our clients tell us is the most valuable thing, is the fact that our intelligence is actionable. If we say it's bad, and that's good enough, because we provide enough context for people to understand why we have said it is bad. And because of our incredibly low false positive rate, people trust our judgment. This is not data scraped from anywhere else. This is Cofense's own data. No one else has it. We're not just scraping the internet looking for open source lists of IP addresses and stuff like that and throwing it into a feed and charging customers a lot of money for it. When you're thinking about, who is a good prospect for this type of technology, it's larger enterprises, I would say, typically in the thousands of users, although we do have some that are smaller than that. But in a larger enterprise, they're more likely to have a dedicated Intel team, or their SOC analysts are consuming threat intel from multiple sources. So, large end users. And if you're a service provider, those who are or haven't managed phishing detection service, this is a great add-on, because we're going to supplement that knowledge with the stuff that we know about. But also, if you're offering managed SIM as a service, where you're managing the security logs and doing the analysis and correlation of security logs on behalf of the client, it's a really obvious fit to feed in that extra source of intelligence. And similarly, if you do anything with clients that are based around threat intelligence or XDR more generally, those are sort of the two most common uses of our threat intelligence feed. Now, Cofense doesn't just do threat intelligence. That intelligence feeds all of our technologies at Cofense, so we can use that data to auto quarantine emails that match that intelligence. For example, through our Cofense Vision service, we can help you send realistic phishing attacks based on real world examples that we're seeing every day in our managed service, and we can help SOC analysts review those user reported emails and enrich all of that content, those reports, with our context as well. We don't have time to go into all of that today, but if you would like to know more, then we're very happy to have follow-up conversations with you. If you do want to know more, of course, reach out to us. We will support your conversations with your clients. We can help you deliver the value of it. There are trials available as well, full featured for 7 days, that we're offering at the moment, so we can help clients or yourself plug this data, the Intel feed, into your security stack and see how it can help you. And there's plenty more information on our website at cofense.com. That about wraps it up for now, unless there are any questions. Thank you.
Smashing. Thank you, Alan. Really, really interesting. A kind of couple of questions that have come up in terms of what organizations are currently doing. I suppose the typical threat intelligence feeds at the moment, obviously you talked about kind of it being very phishing specific. I suppose the current ones are maybe a little bit more of a blunt tool. If general intelligence tends to be just more kind of basic information around kind of IP addresses, kind of potential things that you can block, not block, but there still requires more work by the team. And I suppose that means you're just delaying potential response times if it's not specific around what it actually happens to be, and specifically around phishing emails in particular.
Yeah, that's right. Without the context, many phishing threat intel feeds are literally just lists of IP addresses, and without the context to understand what is that IP address, what does it actually relate to, it's not really actionable. You can't do anything with it. Yes, you can feed it into a SIM and you can correlate against a security log, and if you get a hit, it might be the start of a process, but devoid of the context about what is that IP address, what type of threat is it, and is it relevant to us, it's really hard to actually make use of that information in a meaningful way. It's just not particularly actionable. And that's what we really sort of focus on by adding all of that context. You've just got a very complete picture about the nature of the threat and why, and you can see why is that relevant to you and act accordingly. And that's what our clients say is most valuable. We provide a richer picture than anything else.
Yep. And then the other one that's come up is around AI. I suppose kind of obviously AI from a cybersecurity threat perspective, kind of one of the things it brings is obviously scale and efficiency for bad actors. But the other thing is impersonation and realism. Is that one of the things where this can kind of come into play of enabling organizations of being able to more quickly and at scale themselves and efficiently be able to understand which kind of phishing emails are coming in that are AI generated that obviously are fake but very realistic, and between the ones that kind of might be a little bit legitimate as AI improves continuously and just improves even more in terms of their impersonation of a real human being.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, AI and ML solutions are going to stop some more bad that traditional technologies let through. But we are still to see one of those solutions which is fully, 100, close to 100% effective. Even the best that we're seeing out there, many of our clients are starting to implement these things. We're still seeing malicious get through, and oftentimes they are the exec spoofing. And I would have thought, as a non-expert in machine learning, that this would be quite an easy thing to identify by comparing the display name with your address book. But clearly, it's still a challenge for these technologies to get it right and get it right at scale. But of course, it's much easier for threat actors to do this now because social media provides such a rich source of information about who people are, what their role is within a company, what they're interested in, to enable threat actors to create very convincing, very targeted, and very relevant phishing emails for that individual, but also do it at scale. And so it will be interesting to see how AI defenses and machine learning defenses keep up with that ever-changing landscape.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we've reached the end of it. Thank you very much for your time, Alan, and your presentation.
Thank you.
For everybody watching, as we mentioned, this will be available on demand, so we will be sharing. If you do have any questions, please reach out to the E92 Event Specialist or your account manager, or indeed to Cofense as well. And as mentioned, provide all the support and assistance you need if you need any trial or POC to be able to get a better understanding of the product. But for now, Alan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your time. Have a good day.